Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here as we continue on the 64th season of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series. This is race number 11, playoff race number 3. It is the first race in the round of 8, as last week we ended up seeing our original 13 playoff contenders get eliminated down to our remaining 8. 5 drivers, their road to the championship came to a screeching halt. Now with 8 drivers remaining, 2 races, 2 opportunities to win or point your way into the Final Four with a chance at being the Season 64 champion. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Michael Norman, Kyle Matthews, and guys, if we go back to when we were last year at Talladega, the first race of that first round, the round of 13 I guess we'll call it, we talked about the opportunity to be able to get that automatic golden ticket. You win that first race, that first round, you're here into the round of 8. Playoff spoiler in Joe DeSpirito, a non-playoff driver, went to victory lane. The odds are decreased of a playoff driver going to victory lane here tonight with 40 drivers and only 8 of them still in the hunt for that championship. But what do you think? Do we think there's somebody in the field overcomes the odds here tonight and already locks themselves into the Final Four when the checkered flag waves?
I definitely think we could see a playoff driver win this race. I mean, how many times did we, like during last week's race, did we we look at the standings and we saw it was dominated by playoff drivers. So I think we could see the same thing here tonight. But, like you said, we saw Joe DeSpirito win a couple of weeks ago, not in the playoffs. And there's a lot of good drivers that are not in the playoffs that are racing tonight. So really anything can happen here.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's going to be interesting to watch to see what can happen here. Can't count anybody out as long when that green flag drops. Anyone who still has an engine by the end of this race has a shot at winning.
And those 5 drivers that got eliminated, only one of them a former winner this season. The other ones all pointed their way in. Now, not having the pressure of the playoffs any longer, they can go out there, be a little bit more aggressive, and try and see if they can get a checkered flag before season's end, as I believe the cars have gridded up here on pit road. And
your face is gridded up here.
We almost, guys, ended up getting the random qualifying draw to go in our favor. We almost got the pole position, but we got second instead. Yeah, we got the front row. So either
I still blame you.
We're gonna say vacant took our spot on the front row, which would be alongside of the pole sitter Mark Paglia, who was one of those 5 drivers eliminated last week. So we're gonna read off as if that spot is actually filled here, but you will have the entire outside row moving up right. One. I don't think I can actually...
You include us. You include us in there.
Okay, I'll include us. So you got Mark Paglia on the pole position, and then the FRN gang on the outside of the front row. How's that work for you?
There you go.
Rodney Sullins and Terry Bombard going to make up row number 2. Rodney eliminated in last week's race. Ulysses Sandoval made it into the round of 8 by 1 measly point. He's going to be in row number 3 with Graham McDonald. Ron Hagel and Jessica Shelton in row 4 with Keith Bynum and Richard Martin completing the top 10. Greg Palmer and Kelly Causey, another driver who was eliminated last week, in row 6. Row 7, Mike Mangialardi and Grant Wesley. Grant is the highest starting of the remaining 8 playoff contenders here tonight. Row 8's going to find Bob Seminara alongside of Dennis McCarthy. Row 9, Bob Dixon and Donnie Garrett. Dixon was eliminated last week. Donnie Garrett moved on to the next round, as did the drivers in row 10, Brian Schilling and Tim Nofsker. Nofsker, of course, the defending champion. Row 11, another playoff driver in Dunn LaPrade. He's joined by Doug Hulick. Row 12 finds Bobby Farrell and Josh Metallic, who won his way into the next round last week with his first checkered flag of the season. Another playoff driver in Chuck McClure. He's going to make up row 13 with Jeffrey Elliott. Joe DeSpirito, we talked about him 2 weeks ago at this venue playing playoff spoiler. He's back in row 14 with Randy Waugh.
Luigi.
Greg Lovell, John Godfrey complete the top 30. Ken Roberts, he's back in row 16 with Craig Hagley. Hagley was eliminated from the playoffs last week. Jeff Crivello, Jeremy Jeffries back in row 17. Row 18 with Bernie Mobbs and Cy Jones. Row 19 will be Denny Carroll and Glenn Harris. And in the final row tonight will be Dante Ricky and Brian Rawson. We'll give you a look here at what the point standings look like coming into this race. You see the drivers that were eliminated, the 8 drivers that remain, those above the cut line, those below the cut line with the reformatted points at the conclusion of the first round. We'll find out if somebody here tonight will be locked into the Final Four, or will another non-playoff driver take the checkered flag. Here we go, 66 laps at Talladega Superspeedway, setting the table for next week's final elimination race.
Boggity, boggity, boggity.
Mark Paglia got a good jump right there. He'll take the lead now. Ulysses Sandoval going to go for second spot on the inside.
Talked about Ulysses Sandoval just barely making it into this second round of the playoffs. A couple of things he's got to worry about here tonight, as we are down to 4 drivers remaining in the bracket challenge. Tonight, Sandoval takes on Glenn Harris. Winner of that matchup will face off against Mike Mangialardi next week. So really only 2 drivers to keep an eye on this evening as far as the bracket series is concerned. And Sandoval has had the best average finish. Obviously, he's running the highest in the point standings. But as we've seen really in the last, 2-3 weeks, when it comes down to the very end of the race, you cannot count any type of a situation out. Somebody could be running solidly up inside of the top 5. Next thing you know, they're up on their roof and finishing outside of the top 20 when they come around back to the start-finish line.
We've seen it happen before.
Yes, we have. Looks like the outside line is where you want to be right now. Sandoval trying to lead that inside line and battling for the 4th position right now.
Cheeseburger.
Alongside of his teammate there, Graham McDonald in the 33. Ron Hagelin in the 111 offering the drafting help. Here's a third line foreman. Kelly Causey jumping up there with Grant Wesley, Donnie Garrett. Kelly Causey had a tough first round of the playoffs. He finished the lowest of the playoff contenders at the conclusion of last week. Was obviously eliminated along with Dixon, Hagley, Paglia, and Rodney Sullins. Sullins in that second position. He was on the podium last week, but, guys, we could hear the disappointment in his voice of just missing out. He and Josh Metallic, who had ultimately came down between there, coming off turn 4 to the start-finish line, they were both pretty much in must-win situations. If one of them won, the other one was probably getting eliminated.
Inside lane now starting to form. The middle lane pretty much died out thanks to that third lane. Who's in that Darrell Walker throwback?
Up on the top side?
No,
on the inside
the
right
Western
there.
Auto.
Oh, that's Graham McDonald.
He's leading the inside line right there. Jessica Shelton right behind him. A different paint scheme for Jessica tonight here. Throwing it back to Bill Elliott, the Coors Thunderbird colors.
You should remember that 33 car, Michael. Remember when it debuted? I called it the best Western car. Not my finest moment.
I like how you're like outside. No, I know who's in that Darrell Waltrip throwback.
Third line now being led by Josh Metallic. And remember, guys, we ended up getting told last week Metallic will not be here next week. So he is already here tonight in a must-win situation to be able to make his way into the Final Four. He needs to lock himself in with a victory here tonight. Points won't do it.
It's really interesting how they did the playoffs in this series. I mean, just 2 races per round. Like, usually you think of the playoffs, you'd have 3 or 4 races maybe. You start each round, you're thinking, okay, well, I have time to position myself. But not in this series. If you have one bad race in the first round, I mean, it's automatically a must-win situation. So there's a lot of pressure on these guys right now.
McDonald slid up going into turn 3, and I thought he was going to get into the side of the 0-0.
And you talk about that 2-race format, and if you go into speedways and stuff, okay, maybe it's something that you might be able to do, but a super speedway, you got to come in with the pressure of a must-win situation? No thanks.
Yeah, I'm good.
At that point, you just need to stay at the front by all means
pretty much
necessary. You got to think, you've raced at this track enough times to know how the lines work, so I mean, Seth, I feel like me and you could probably put up a good defense if we were up at the front at this racetrack, just because we've seen how it works.
Well, yes and no, because to your point, we've run this track before, and I've had the opportunity to run with these drivers, a number of them, when they ran Talladega on Monday nights in the Barebone Racing Series. And the thing of it is, we see how all three lanes are able to work so well. That's because the runs that you can get in all three lanes are generated very quickly. And we'll see sometimes when drivers see that momentum, they'll move up to try and help, and they actually stall that momentum out. That's because you carry such a high rate of speed if your draft is nice and tight. So it is not actually all that easy. It's easy to say, but not as easy to put into action, defending against these multiple lines when they're able to generate the runs that they do.
Kelly Causey going to take the lead here.
I still think you would block 4 lanes of traffic, though.
Oh, I could block 4 lanes of traffic. I can't vouch for the end results. I can't say that I would block them successfully, but yeah, I can block.
I can see it now. Last lap, Seth. Someone goes high. He goes high. So it goes low.
Kelly Causey going to get himself a bonus point there.
Middle lane really shot up there on the back stretch, the last lap there.
You know, it'd be interesting to kind of find out as well, you know, mention about those 5 drivers that got eliminated. You think there'd be any kind of bragging rights amongst those 5 at the end of the season to finish 9th in the overall standings? Or does it really at this point, are they not even really thinking about points anymore, since their season as far as battling for the championship is pretty much done? I know that, you know, they talk about in NASCAR, they'll be like, if they get eliminated in the round of 16, they want to be the 13th place finisher. I think there's actually a payout if you finish the highest of the eliminated drivers, but that's not the case here. So do you think there's any bragging rights in finishing the highest of those that were eliminated in your respective round, or no?
I'm not sure. I think that's something we'd have to ask them.
Yeah. Looking towards the back of the pack there, I noticed there are a couple of stragglers. One of them, surprisingly, is the 24 car of Joe DeSpirito, who won here 2 weeks ago, the last time we were at Talladega Superspeedway. Denny Carroll also back there. And one of our playoff drivers is kind of chilling at the back as well, that being Brian Schilling, who comes into this race second in the reformatted round of 8 point standings, 10 points above the cut line. There's Brian. Just hanging out. He qualified mid-pack. He was 19th rolling off the grid. I don't know if this is a case of he saw something up there he didn't like and he just wanted to get to a safe spot.
He saw 3 wide, like 20 rows deep.
Maybe he thought that we were going to talk about his top 5 streak and he didn't want to have the commentator's curse hit him or something.
Well, now you just did.
It's already broken, all right? You know, we can't curse him again.
How about laugh if you said that and he immediately blew an engine?
Okay, so don't say that, because there was a time where there was a running joke about Schilling Motors where Brian would have a lot of engine failures, so don't invoke that beast. Driver this season that really has had the hard luck when it comes to engine failures is this guy. We saw him, what was it, 2 of the 3 final races of the regular season with mechanical problems. Jeremy Jeffries had a chance to point his way, if not win his way, in the regular season finale into the playoffs, had an engine failure there, and that's what kept him from battling for his second championship in this series.
Man, these guys really pinch when they come down low there.
Jeffries just made an interesting move, jumping down to the bottom. Really nobody behind him at that time, but now he...
Hey, look, the one car...
Now you got 4 ones lined up.
Yeah, I was going to say, the 1 car jumped down, and now behind him is the 1-1-1.
One's got to stick together. If Jeff Supto was racing in this series, we could have 6 ones.
1's the loneliest number.
Well, he's not lonely right now.
And I have a big box of the sponsor on that 1 car right here in my room, too, so...
No one's sponsored by Animal Crackers anymore, and that's scary, because I had a big 5-gallon drum of Animal Crackers in my room.
Does it not creep you out, Kyle, that your snack smile's back at you, though?
I don't look at it.
Oh, okay, you don't look at it in the eye?
The non-existent little dot that's an eye.
Trying to remember back, wasn't it a month ago here at Talladega where Kelly Causey ran out of fuel with 2 laps to go?
Just about, yeah.
So so looking for a little
Under
Talladega
caution.
redemption here would be Kelly Causey, who dominated that race as well, at least the whole second half of it, but didn't have the fuel to get to the conclusion.
19 people watching the stream, but no one is talking in our chat. Liven up, guys. We're here to please.
And we do apologize. We did not acknowledge the chat last week. So
No, the chat didn't acknowledge us. We're the tribal chief.
Are we the tribal chief? We didn't start on the poll. We weren't at the head of the table.
it's green flag run right now.
My one's in the air.
We're not too far away from green flag pit stops. I
So-
was just informed that they're about 6 projected.
So what you're saying, Seth, is we the twos?
We the twos.
But will you walk 500 miles, though?
6 projected laps for these guys.
How
Be
dare
right
you
around
hold in
lap
your laugh?
20.
How dare you hold in your laugh? I know you wanted to snicker at
We'll
that.
keep an eye on that 143 former winner this season, Bob Dixon. He's usually one of those first ones to make the dive onto pit road.
Yeah,
It was a well-timed pit stop that got him his first win at a BSR here.
True.
actually, it was a lucky
About a month
caution.
or so ago. Yeah, that and a lucky caution. Yeah.
John
But,
Godfrey, we're looking at, has now made his way up
Gilbert.
into the top 5.
John Gilbert Godfrey.
He started 30th, so he's passed a lot of cars here in the first 15 laps.
I mean,
Ken
sometimes
Roberts
you can
actually
do that
started
if you-
just behind him in 31st, and
If you pick
he's right
the
now
right
in
lane,
6th.
If you pick the right lane, you can maneuver your way through the field pretty
Oh, yeah.
quickly. Plus, it also helps when the rest of the field goes 3 wide.
It's kind of fun to watch some of the guys like Grant Wesley, Chuck McClure, Jeremy Jeffrey start out back, because then there's kind of a little mini game you have of how many laps is it going to take for them to get to the top 15 or the top 10 or the top 5. Usually it only takes about 7 to 10 laps.
If that. But yeah, this you should be about 4 laps away from green flag pit stops.
Look who's leading that outside line right there. Talk about somebody who's already in a must-win situation. The man who won last week
He's being pushed
at
by
BSR, Josh Metallic.
He's being pushed by quadruple ones.
And Metallic coming into this race 6 points below the cut line, which would be 4th in the standings, currently held by Dunn LaPrade. But as we alluded to, he has to win tonight. He will not be here next week. Other drivers below the cut line like Chuck McClure, Donnie Garrett, Ulysses Sandoval, they can utilize this and next week's race to, if not win, at least accumulate enough points to advance into the Final Four. We know that at least 2 drivers, minimum, are going to have to point their way into the final round, into the Final Four. We could have as many as 2 drivers win their way in, but it again puts the emphasis not only on victories, but maybe just as much, if not more so, consistency.
Consistency is key. Oh, who's coming out of...
Joe
That's
DeSpirito.
Joe DeSpirito.
Did he just pit?
Yes, he did. And he pit by himself. I believe Denny Carroll also just pit.
And Bob Dixon.
No, Dixon is not pit. He lost the draft. He's yet to come to pit road.
Interesting time.
Yeah, all
the
by
20
himself. Oh, he's coming back in.
Wonder if maybe he had a penalty.
Something is... No, Bob Dixon is
coming
pitting.
in as well.
Let's follow the 24, see if he just does a pass-through. I'm looking to see if scoring gives any indication of him getting a speeding penalty on his initial pit stop. It looks like he's just maintaining 55 all the way down. May have gotten a black flag. There's Bob Dixon on pit road. I'd be curious to know if that was a regularly scheduled stop for the 24.
More radios lighting up. Should be enough cars coming to pit road this time.
You gotta think the 00 is one of them, having been out in front for a majority of this run, using up the most fuel. Nope. He's actually staying out.
Anybody come
I reckon. That's Ron Hagelin on the right. Mike Mangialardi on the left. Caution is out. Somebody must have come back up onto the racetrack. Might have been Bernie Mobbs in the 31. Saw Bobby Farrell there on the right side, the powder blue 92 machine. Keith Bynum there in the infield grass. And we had a few of our playoff contenders, I believe, come down pit road in that group. One that I saw was the 74 of Dunlaprad. Now we got a spin on the back straightaway. That's Terry Bombard.
A lot of these cars are cutting it close on field, too. Like, I was just told one projected for a bunch of them.
Everybody throwing in the clutch to make sure they have enough fuel to get back around, be able to get to their pit stall. Let's take a look and see what happened coming to pit road. First car that I basically saw out of shape there was the red 111, the Coca-Cola machine of Ron Hagelin. And this was back in the latter half of the field. The drivers coming to pit road here.
Oh, wow. Looks like he just got on the
Was he
brakes
trying
and the
a
car
last
behind him
minute-
didn't.
I think
was he
so.
trying to
You
pit from
can't
the
pit
top
from the
lane?
third lane, and I
Yeah.
think Bernie Mobbs was going to stay out.
It's a lot of miscommunication right there.
I mean, he's
Yeah,
he's literally on the top of 3 wide coming off of 4. You can't pit from there.
Yep, he just started to slow down.
Yeah, that
I don't even
31 was
think-
not going to pit.
I don't even think from that point he was going to even be able to make it on the
No.
pit road. He was still going upwards of 160. Now it's halfway down that straightaway.
We'll take a look at some of those others that were involved there. Mike Mangialardi in the 029 also got spun out.
And I think he might have hit the wall unless he was pushed by the... Yep, right there. He might have been pushed.
I think he may have turned left to avoid and gets clipped in, was that the 56, Jeffrey Elliott?
Yeah.
Probably, yes. Speaking of Jeffrey Elliott, I should say the Elliott name is Chris Elliott. Actually, his birthday today.
Yes, it is.
I know you've raced with him.
I have indeed. So it was Chris Elliott's birthday. Also, birthday of a friend of ours from quite a while ago. I've kind of lost contact with him, but James Shelley. It's his birthday today.
Oh, yeah, my drafting partner in practice every series we were in.
That's right.
I think he's done forgot about us.
I don't know if you guys saw it there, but when Hagelin was spinning, he ran into the back bumper of Chuck McClure, one of our playoff contenders. I don't think that would have given Chuck any damage, but that could have been pretty bad there for a driver that's been really consistent the whole regular season and was good in the first round of the playoffs. I counted 3 playoff contenders that were a part of that group that came to pit road. Dunlaprad, Tim Nofsker, and the aforementioned Chuck McClure.
Then there was the issue with the 10 car.
Yeah, we'll see
He
if
got
we can...
ran into from behind.
Yeah, on the back straightaway. We'll see if we can
Him
find
and,
that.
I think it was the 143 that got together with him.
This was after they had taken the yellow. Yeah, Bob Dixon.
Looks like Dixon was trying to slow down. Looks like he got into the wall as well and then got in the back of the 10 car.
I think he was trying to use the wall to slow himself down. Either that or he got so hard on the brakes it turned him to the right into the outside wall. Didn't slow him enough.
Trying to think of what would cause you to be going that fast to begin with, besides just catching the field.
Either that or may have been on the tail end of the lead lap when the caution came out and was going around to get his lap back, something like that, not sure. But we're about a third of the way through this race now, working our first caution right in the middle of green flag pit stops. And this caution was a huge break for the 24 of Joe DeSpirito because he was a lap down He'll now get the lucky dog. Denny Carroll is also going to get the free pass. 2 drivers can get the free pass under each caution period, and they were the only 2 drivers off the lead lap.
Yeah, I was wondering about the 24 there. Didn't know if that caution would have, hurt him or helped him right there, but it
definitely
helped.
So. And Jeremy Jeffries, Tim Nofsker, Chuck McClure, those were some of the drivers that were at the front of that group that came to pit road. They made the commitment line before the caution flew, so they were able to take service. So when they left and everybody else had to come down pit road, they cycle up to the front.
And caution.
Looks like Mark Paglia, Grant Wesley going to complete the top 5 here.
Jeremy Jeffries staying out. He's got the lead.
See him saving a lot of fuel there, though. Realizing that others would have come down pit road that first lap of caution, so they would be, I don't know, maybe half a lap, maybe a full lap better on fuel than those drivers that came down pit road when the caution occurred and have stayed out the entirety of this caution period.
See some playoff drivers in this up here in the first 3 rows. You got Nofsker, you got McClure, you got Grant Wesley, Kelly Causey.
I believe we have 3 in the top 10. And then 5, 6, 7 in the top 18. The only playoff contender right now, and scoring is not completely updated, right now it's showing him in the 28th position, would be Dunn LaPrade. All the other 7 are up inside the top 20 here for this upcoming restart.
See Metallic and Sandoval right there. They're all on the inside line, it looks like.
So Jeremy Jeffries, Tim Nofsker, going to be the front row. Jeremy is still looking for his first win on the season. Nofsker looking for his 3rd. Chuck McClure going to make up row 2 with Mark Paglia. Then Grant Wesley, Rodney Sullins, Kelly Causey, John Godfrey, Ken Roberts, Craig Hagley. That's going to be the top 10 as we get ready to go back green. Right now, it looks like we'd have to make at least 1 more pit stop, and then it'd be super, super close on whether you can make it the rest of the way. You're looking maybe about a lap or 2 short if we ran green the rest of the way here to the checkered flag.
And you were the leader.
Oh, true. Well, if you're the leader, I don't think you can make it on 1 stop. I don't even think you'd be able to save the 1 or 2 laps you were lacking if you're out in front. Green flag back in the air. 44 laps to go here in playoff race number 3.
Jeffries gets a good start on the bottom. Got Chuck McClure right behind him.
Wesley moves to 3rd, and look at the run there by Nofsker. He's actually not going to tuck in line with the middle groove. He went up to a 3rd lane. McClure saw that, covers it, and now we're side by side, double wide, several rows deep through 3 and 4. Don't normally see somebody try to formulate a 3rd line right out of the gate off of turn 2. They kind of wait a lap or 2 to get these cars up to full song before we see that 3rd line formulate.
Well, yeah, because it's the best way to get your momentum is when you're up to full song. Number 1 leads the lap.
Mentioned about Jeremy Jeffries looking for his first win on the season. Same for Kelly Causey. Same for Ken Roberts. You know, we obviously focus a lot of our attention on the playoff contenders because they're the ones still in the hunt for the championship, but we can't take for granted the fact that There are a lot of drivers that still have a 0 in the win column, very good at super speedway racing, and they are going to fight the playoff drivers as if there are no playoffs whatsoever here in the closing stages to be the first one back to that checkered flag.
Well, I mean, everybody's got something to race for, even if they're not in the playoffs. I mean, there's still races to win, so... And as we've mentioned, these guys that are not in the playoffs, they have a bit more freedom out there. Like, they don't really have anything to worry about.
Not only do they have checkered flags to race for, but kind of leads into something that we were talking with the RTG administration about earlier on tonight. A victory here in the Talladega Challenge Series locks you up an automatic spot into the Super Speedway All-Star Race, which will be on May the 1st here on FRN. We also will be bringing you coverage of the Speedway All-Star Races. Man, that's a bunch of chain bumping going on there.
Boy, I thought there was going to be a wreck right there.
Yeah, Tim
held it
Knopfsker
together nicely.
You know, a bit of a sandwich there. But that's Speedway All-Star Race. That'll be coming up on April 28th. If I'm not mistaken, that's going to be a week or two after this 64th season of the Talladega Challenge Series comes to a close. There we go.
Yeah.
2 different areas. Randy Waugh goes around and Mark Paglia.
Not Waluigi. That's a big one.
That's a combination of 2 big ones.
Multiple cars involved.
Wow. Looking for playoff drivers in that.
I think I saw the 17 maybe, close to it.
The 74 was in the middle of it. I don't know if he was involved.
Pole sitter.
Rodney Sullins. Oh, that car's demolished. He's able to get it refired, but you see the smoke billowing from out from underneath that Dale Sr. throwback.
We were just talking about all the chain bumping, and then this happens.
Well, we had 2 different areas. There's Jeremy Jeffries. He's all torn up. I think he might have been the one that got Mark Paglia, and then I think there was contact between Doug Hewlick and Randy Waugh. That was the other start to that second incident. They both almost happened simultaneously.
When we look at the replay here, there are 2 onboards I want to do here. So, because 2 drivers just narrowly avoided it. So,
I believe that the first incident that occurred started with the 21. So we'll look at that one first here. Watch the 23 car up ahead of him. Did we just stack up?
The first bit of contact was with the... Oh, okay.
Yeah, we checked up. Checked up on that inside line. Wow. Too many drivers to name. Pretty much anybody back behind that wreck, all on the brakes trying to avoid cars sliding in. And again, this was a combination of wrecks too. They were trying to avoid not only what we just saw, but then there was a wreck that occurred up ahead of it that blocked the track up even further, starting with Mark Paglia.
It happened right about the same time too. I mean,
yeah.
2 separate incidents too. That's wow.
Here's
this
the
is
Paglia
the first one
incident
that I saw.
Oh, Jeremy gets the apron. Mark's trying to make a move to the inside of Knopfsker. Glenn Harris goes up and over. His front end was in the catch fence. Rodney Sullins immediately starts tumbling. Those were some big hits right there. Watch the 38 car as we go to Michael's favorite TV2. I mean, you see him, he moves right up to the wall. You can't do any more than that. You give that incident as wide a berth as you can, but just sometimes with how high a speed these wrecks take place at, just can't get out of the danger zone. Well, this may spell out some good news for Ulysses Sandoval. As the driver he was battling in the bracket challenge, Glenn Harris, was in the middle of this as well. Brian Schilling, nice evasive maneuver there from top to bottom to get through. And there's Dun the Prad just snaking his way by as well. So a couple of playoff drivers with some nice moves to get through. Who'd you have for those onboards?
The 84 for one.
That'd be Dante Ricky, the Canada Dry Chevrolet.
Right on board with him. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yikes.
All of the smoke and everything you see in front of him. That was a tough drive.
Had a near miss there with Dun the Prad and Mike Mangialardi.
And the 9 car, Jessica just barely got through that as well.
She was right behind the second incident that was further on up here. Chuck McClure was right behind that.
I think both of them just cheated death right there.
I think they did too. Let's do one more on board. Watch this evasive maneuver from the top side to the bottom by Brian Schilling.
There's one, and then...
Wow.
Nice job avoiding getting into the back of Ulysses Sandoval as well.
So a lot of drivers dive for that apron.
The apron has grip down there.
It does.
Not as flat as the rest of bankings are used at different racetracks.
And especially, too, like in that case, if you dive down to the apron from the center of the corner, you have a better chance of the car actually planting, as opposed to if you enter in on the apron right at the very beginning of the corner, the car is obviously going to push up. So you're able to utilize that momentum and that counter banking down there, able to keep your car steady at least for the time being before you get past the wreck. Then you can bring it back safely up above the yellow line. Well, after all that, I thought for sure that when I looked over at the running order that we would certainly have some DNFs. So far, everybody is still scored in this race. You just saw Terry Bombard lead a lap and dive onto pit road.
I'm surprised by that. I thought, yeah, Rodney saw...
How is that car still running?
We saw a lot of smoke coming out of that car. I thought for sure that that would have been a DNF, but he's still out there.
This is Sandoval coming back in. Looks like he's going to top off the fuel tank. Glenn Harris, after he was barrel rolling, he's still going, though.
These cars are durable.
That's moderate damage for you, too.
I'll be very surprised if some of these cars aren't off the pace, though, after the hits we saw, because we talk about the deceptive damage model of the Aero 88 cars, not really able to tell necessarily after some hits if they're going to be up to speed or not. Saw a lot of cars leaving the scene of that accident with visible damage, and you could see a couple of them still had that visible damage, so that says to me, if not going to be down on power, certainly going to be at an aerodynamic disadvantage. Had a handful of drivers come down and top off here at the 1 to green. We documented Ulysses Sandoval, Bob Seminara as well, Jeremy Jeffries, Craig Hagley, and Dennis McCarthy. So keep an eye on those drivers. If we go into a long green flag run, the timing of this yellow going to put us where the potential final pit stop of the night would be somewhere probably around lap 50, 51, somewhere in that region, with about 15, 16 to go. Topping off the fuel tank would mean that you'd probably be coming down pit road on that final pit stop and taking on a guaranteed can and a half. Everybody else might have to take on an extra half can and fill the thing all the way back up. So second caution of the night. All 39 drivers, though, still running, still on the lead lap. Jeffrey Elliott will lead us back here to the green with Grant Wesley to his outside. Causey, Metallic, Shelton going to be your top 5. Looks like 5 of our 8 playoff contenders going to restart here inside of the top 10. Oh, Tim Nofsker! He saved it, but the rest of them didn't.
Wow.
Greg Palmer, Ken Roberts, Bernie Mobbs, Graham McDonald. Oh, big hit to the inside wall for Mark Paglia.
Yeah, our pole sitter, not
That's the second time he's hit an inside wall at pretty high rate of speed.
Does it have to do with pinching? Because it looked like they were really close for 3 wide.
It was really odd. It almost looked like Nofsker was letting Donnie Garrett in and then changed his mind to go to the bottom and somebody was already there. It looked like a lot of miscommunication. We'll obviously look back at the replay and try to dissect it, but that was an odd one. So our third caution of the evening going to be happening right around halfway. And let's try and see if we can figure out what exactly went wrong here. Let's find the 088 of Tim Nofsker.
This was a wreck that should have been a wreck, and then they wrecked behind them.
Yeah. And Nofsker was able to save it somehow. So let's take it all the way back to turn 1. Watch the 77. He's the 4th car on the inside line. You're going to see a gap right there between Metallic and Nofsker. Garrett moves up for that. And then Nofsker turns down into Greg Lovell.
And that was just a big chain reaction behind them, and that's what caused the wreck right there.
That was really... I want to look at it again. And I don't know why, but I can't help but cast my memory back to the last time we were here.
You can do that.
Remember when we ended up having that single file after a green flag pit stop and Nofsker and Greg Lovell got together?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's bumper grab or not.
It might have been.
Yeah, it might have been.
I don't know.
It just might be coincidental. I don't know.
It was either hip grab or it was hip grab. I can't talk.
Hip grab?
It was either bumper grab or it was hip box. I don't know why I tried to combine both of those.
So I don't know how the 088 could have thought he was clear right there.
And as we go a little bit further back here, a lot of these other drivers, in reaction to Nofsker's half spin, end up getting involved. Greg Palmer was in the middle of it there. So he's going to get clipped by Ken Roberts. There you see Graham McDonald sliding in from the racing surface. Bernie Mobbs, Randy Waugh.
Luigi.
And Mark Paglia, his night is over. Tough night for the pole sitter. He had already nosed it into the inside wall after the incident over in 3 and 4 when he turned his car back down the racetrack. He hit that inside guardrail. And this was the final blow, as he's going to nose it once again. Right.
It's 2 bad weeks.
Here, swerves to a miss, Palmer.
Oh. That's 2 bad weeks in a row there for that 28 car. Blew an engine last week, which knocked him out of the playoffs.
Looked like Bobby Farrell, Terry Bombard, and Dennis McCarthy actually went around a little bit further back, but they didn't really have any further contact. Let's see if we can get one more camera angle here. See if there was bumper grab between the 77 and the 088. The odd thing for me is of giving it the benefit of the doubt for bumper grab is, if there was bumper grab, watch the direction the 77's going. He's going from left to right. So the 088 should have bumper grabbed up to the outside wall, not to the left.
I didn't know you could bumper grab from that angle right there. I thought you had to hit him square in order for that to happen.
No. Usually the bumper grab takes place if the car in front of you is moving in a horizontal direction. Or if you, in turn, are moving in a horizontal direction on their back bumper. We'll go to the chopper cam one more time here. See, right here, he should be spinning to the right, and instead he's going to the left. So, I don't know. Only a few drivers know exactly what happened. We can only speculate. But it does raise some interesting questions based off what we saw a couple of weeks ago.
All I know is that was a very bizarre incident.
It was, very much so. We mentioned Mark Paglia is out of the race. Jeffrey Elliott, who brought us to that previous restart, has also taken his car back behind the wall. So Elliott will get credit for 38th, Mark Paglia in 39th. Both those drivers led some laps here this evening. Paglia starting on the pole, led the first 5 laps. Jeffrey Elliott led 3, but they will not reach the conclusion.
So we're just past halfway, and I believe they just pitted under that caution.
Should give them about, I think, one more stop left.
Yep. This caution should get everybody at least to only having to take on a can and a half of fuel on the final pit stop. Should get them in that window. We should get the 1 to green this next time by. There's a couple drivers last minute diving there.
Hey,
that was Bob
what better
Seminary and
time-
Jeremy Jeffries.
Better time to come in and top off.
The only problem with that is, if you remember back to that double big one that we had over in 3 and 4, Joe DeSpirito had just gotten back on the tail end of the lead lap. He was behind all of that, and he slid into it. So you're giving up a lot of track position, putting yourself back in a potentially precarious area. Now, granted, neither one of those drivers, neither Seminara nor Jeremy Jeffries, are in the playoffs, so, you know, it's kind of the bring home the steering wheel or the checkered flag mentality. Why not do something a little bit unorthodox in terms of fuel strategy, see if it pans out to get you that checkered flag? Bob and Jeremy, the 2 highest running drivers in the point standings that did not make it into the playoffs. Bob 14th in points, Jeremy Jeffries 15th in the standings.
Doubling up now, coming to the green. This should be an interesting run to the finish, Seth. Now we know, again, do you wait till you run it dry, or do you try to pit a little bit early? Take and see what you got to take.
We've seen both sides of that strategy this season. And honestly, I think it comes down to 2 things. Number one, I think it comes down to the fact that if we have to take a can and a half of fuel, if everybody has to take a can and a half of fuel, then you may end up seeing some drivers come down pit road as soon as that window's opens. If it was just that we were coming down to take a splash or coming down to take a half can, then I think everybody's waiting until the last minute. The other thing, too, is we've already had an incident here tonight with a big group of drivers coming down pit road and making contact with each other. If you can come down pit road with a select 6, 7, 8 other drivers, not have a big, massive group of drivers come into pit lane, not only do you have a better chance of all getting onto pit road safely, we've also seen where a pack of 6, 7 cars can generate just as much, if not more speed than a pack of 20 cars when they're lined up single file. So we might see some drivers play some strategy there with a less congested pit road. Greg Lovell and Dante Ricky gonna bring us down here to the green. Playoff drivers behind them with LaPrade and Chuck McClure. Dante with a good launch trying to clear Greg before they get to turn 1, and he will do so. Nice job timing that green flag for the 84.
Say it's all about the timing.
Did a good job of avoiding that first big incident. Now he's out front.
Dante will stay committed to the inside line here down the back straightaway. Middle line gaining some momentum though as they head to 3. Dante sees it, moves up to cover.
Second car on the inside line right there, Dunlap-Pratt. Dunlap-Pratt and Dante Ricky worked well together a couple weeks ago at BSR when LaPrade got his first victory in this series.
Yeah, a lot of firsts for LaPrade here in his first full-time season, first career checkered flag, first appearance in the playoffs, and now first advancement into the next round of said playoffs. But he comes into this race with all the pressure of being that cut line driver, 4th in the standings, the position that everybody is gunning for. Take a look who's made his way up here almost into the top 10. Denny Carroll in the 41 had lost the lead draft at the beginning of this race, made a pit stop, fell a lap down, got the free pass under the first caution, and now the Bills Mafia machine is, last time by, scored in the 10th position. Good comeback for him.
Can't say I'm crazy about the paint scheme, though.
Yeah, I'm not a Bills fan either, but, you know.
Hey, listen, personal differences aside.
We'll give credit to the driver, not necessarily to the team. And Brian Schilling, who we saw kind of just hanging out at the beginning of the race, feels it's go time. He's now up here into the 5th position. Now into the second half of this race. Let's check towards the back of the pack here after working a couple of cautions that had some pretty good hits involved. Bobby Farrell, a lot of damage on the back end of that race car. The ones have found each other again, but not necessarily in the situation they wanted to. Jeremy Jeffries, Ron Hagelin, Glenn Harris, who went up and over. Still running, but not able to stay latched on to the tail end of the field. Former champion Richard Martin there as well. And Cy Jones just trying to hang on to Dennis McCarthy's draft. I believe the 024 is the last driver right now in this lead pack. There's Donnie Garrett in the 77 back here. He is, I believe, the lowest running of the playoff contenders right now in 26th. And a little bit of an update, 2 more drivers out of the race. They completed a couple of laps and then came down pit road. Unfortunately, Michael, last time tonight you'll get to say the name Randy Waugh.
Luigi.
Whoa, Donnie Garrett got way out of shape right there. I don't know if him and the 10 got together, but that was a nice save.
Rodney Sullivan's also out of the race, joining Jeffrey Elliott and Mark Paglia. Yeah, that was a weird one. That might have been the case of bumper grab right there. I don't think that I think Donnie was in front of that big 1 through 3 and 4, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, that inside line just completely disintegrated. The only one on the bottom right now is Jessica Shelton, and she is falling back.
Yeah, she is in no man's land, getting freight trained by that middle line. She'll look to find a spot in maybe behind the 33. Everybody single filing out here, trying to get to that potential final round of pit stops. Well, some of these guys are not. Seminara, who was one of those, I believe, that came down at the 1 to green, topped off the fuel tank, so he's got a little extra security to try and make some moves here. And people might be wondering, you know, why are we racing up here? Why aren't we just running single file if we're trying to get to that final pit stop? This is the portion of the race that drivers call positioning for the pit stop. They want to get those 1, 2, 3 extra spots on the racetrack, because that, if they execute a really good green flag pit stop, then translates to a net gain of maybe 5, 6, 7 pit stops, or not pit stops, 5, 6, 7 positions once everything cycles around. May not seem like much, but 1 or 2 spots on track can actually gain you a ton of track position once a pit stop cycle is complete.
See Josh
Double
Metallic
line.
lead. Well, he was leading the outside.
He's trying.
Must-win situation as we've documented, so he's all go. This is Sandoval behind him. Couple of playoff contenders nose to tail. Doug Hewlick now leads that outside line in the 23. Looking for his second win of his career here in the Talladega Challenge Series. We talked about Bob Dixon, the timing of a caution and pit strategy. That's how Hewlick got his very first win many seasons ago at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. You know, think about it too. We talk about drivers wanting to get those victories here at the close of the season for several different reasons. How about this reason? Final season for the Aero 88 cars here on Thursday nights. We're moving over to the NXS 20 cars starting in season 65. So for those that have yet to win a race in these historic type vehicles, it could be a little extra incentive here in these final 4 races.
Yeah,
Look
absolutely.
at how close they're really tightening it up.
I don't know about you guys, but you know, a lot of times when a lot of the cars that I've run, I feel, you know, a little bit of sentimental value out there. It's like, man, I really want to get a win with this paint scheme. I'm sure a lot of these guys feel the same way.
Oh, yeah. Things got really close off of turn 4 that last lap, with Hewlick trying to move into the top 5. Schilling kind of moved up to cover, and 23 might have gotten into the wall. If not, he was very close. Now Greg Lovell jumps down to the inside line, although Hewlick is kind of pinching that middle line down there as well, so both lanes kind of playing with fire. Not a whole lot of side-by-side room being given off of corner exit. Hewlick might have some damage. It almost looks like that car is not able to lead the line forward. He's got 4 or 5 cars lined up behind him. Metallic is right up on his bumper. Sandoval right up on his. Now they're starting to make some progress, but it almost looks like that 23 may not have a car that's able to lead a line. Look at how fanned art they are here. Whoa, Hewlick! Into the wall, nice save.
Bold.
Got bumped there in the corner. I think he had damage. I think he had aero damage, and Metallic was doing all he could to keep the draft tight, but not too tight. Was getting too much of a run on him in there in the corner. The two of them ended up making contact. That sent Hewlick up into the wall. Now Schilling will move up to the outside line here in front of Josh. Let's see now with the 4 leading. Let's see if that middle line makes progress.
Got some fast cars on that outside line, too. Schilling, Metallic, Sandoval.
And as
Never
we're
know
watching
what
all
you're
this
gonna do.
battling around the 5th position, Dante Ricky continues to lead. He's the only driver now that has led double-digit laps tonight, about to lead lap 12. A race high so far this evening.
Coming up on the 92 car. He's going to go to the outside, get out of everybody's way.
Got, I believe, if I'm eyeballing this correct, 5 of our playoff drivers up here inside of the top 10. Drivers that we are missing would be Donnie Garrett, Dun LaPrade, and Tim Nofsker. LaPrade's right there. 14th last time by.
About 8 projected laps, I'm being told, for everybody.
There's Garrett and there's Nofsker. Last cars really here in this lead group. What'd you say the number was, Kyle?
Last lap is about 8 projected laps.
8 projected, putting us at 56. So that'd be around 10 to go. That's a can of fuel that they'd have to take on to get the rest of the way. If they wanted to, they could come to pit road right now. Window is open. To make it the rest of the way, they'd have to take on more than likely a can and a half to 2 cans. They got to fill the thing all the way up. Drivers up here in the second lane certainly wouldn't be able to do that right now. Spirito just crossed down to the bottom. Well, it may not necessarily have been the 23. For Brian Schilling has gotten up here in front of Metallic and has made just about as much progress as Hewlick did leading that third lane. Or that second lane, I should say. Looks like they're about to catch the 92 of Bobby Farrell once again. I think he just made a pit stop, which is why they are closing on him so quickly.
We're approaching the end of this. We're approaching the end of this race, so it's going to get a little crazy.
Yeah, I think up on that outside line, there's so few cars. I think instead of bump drafting, I think they're almost borderline shoving now, trying to keep that momentum up. The problem for them is, as you mentioned, Kyle, we're approaching green flag pit stop, so everybody's trying to find a space down on the inside line to have that easier entry onto pit road. So that's all the drafting help that's leaving that middle groove for those 3 drivers.
And we saw what happened on the first round of green flag pit stops, so...
One driver we know is going to be having to come to pit road sooner than most is Dante Ricky. He has led the entirety of this thing. Here he comes, as a matter of fact.
Speaking of which...
Chuck McClure coming in as well. Got a half dozen behind them.
Oh, boy, they're leaning on each other, but keeping it together.
That's 4 playoff drivers right there. Half our playoff field coming down pit road. Nofsker, Garrett, LaPrade, and McClure. They all made it onto pit road safely. Did they make it on slowly is going to be the question. This is the money stop.
Yes.
You mess up here, you speed, you get a black flag, you're pretty much done. You're not winning this race.
Yeah, anything at this point right now is just going to be, it's going to be beating yourself.
So the drivers that came to pit road right there, they're taking on a can and a half of fuel. Here comes some more. Greg Lovell's coming in. Brian Rawson in the 6. Looks like they'll be the only 2. See, Brian Rawson started out back. And while that's maybe a good thing in the beginning of the race, you're able to observe everything ahead. It's not great as far as pit stall selection because you have to be the first one hard on the brakes for that early pit stall just after you cross the commitment line. Bob Dixon in the wall right in front of the leaders.
Caution is out.
What in the world just happened right there?
Could he maybe have pulled a Michael Waltrip? That could help the cars that just came down pit road.
Yes, it could.
Position.
Absolutely.
As long as they're on the lead lap. Wonder if 143 might have just pulled a Michael Waltrip.
Transition there of the apron onto the racetrack, maybe? I don't know. That's a heart-stopping moment if you're any of these drivers up at the front.
And they are racing back to the line here.
John Godfrey just going to get to the line ahead of Grant Wesley to stay on the lead lap, so we'll see who the free pass drivers will be as a result. Not what these guys wanted to see.
No, not at all.
Because all those that were able to stay on the tail end of the lead lap, they will cycle up to the front. These drivers, when they pit, they will be back behind all of those that have already made a pit stop.
Almost any other kind of track, it would help these guys that stayed on that had not pitted yet, but Talladega being so as big as it is.
Bob Dixon bringing out this yellow. Would have been a bad story for Bob Dixon regardless, as he was actually caught speeding on pit road. He would have had to come down pit road under green flag conditions and serve a pass through. And it looks like you're right, Michael. Down here on the apron, all the way around to turn 2. And right there, see the back end of the car step out. Whoa!
Wow.
Grant Wesley. Like his right side tires got up on that yellow line. Might be a little paint grip there. Scoring's actually updating itself and showing that the 088 of Tim Nofsker ended up also getting a black flag speeding penalty on that green flag pit stop.
Not too sure why he didn't merge up there. I mean, you can merge in turn one.
Yeah, that's a good point. This is on board with Grant, the race leader. Might have been thinking about coming to pit road here this next time out of turn 4. And imagine seeing this as you're coming out of turn number 2.
Oh.
Which way is he going?
Seth, I think you have some experience in your offline series about leaders getting taken out.
Yeah. Leaders or llamas. So it looks like we're going to have some drivers that will be eligible for the wave around as well. Drivers that were behind leader Grant Wesley and a number of those others that had yet to come to pit road. Richard Martin, Mike Mangialardi, Bob Dixon, Bobby Farrell, all were lap down machines. I'm not certain who was where at the time the caution came out. I think Richard Martin had just come off pit road when Grant hit the line to receive the caution, so I think he was a lap down when scoring called the caution at the start-finish line. I think he and Mangialardi are going to be the free pass cars, and then Farrell and Dixon might be able to take the wave around, but we'll wait for confirmation on all that. Greg Lovell is, it looks like, going to be the race leader when we go back green. Brian Rawson in second. Remember, those were the two drivers that came to pit road the lap after that group of about 8 hit pit lane. So that caution worked out perfectly for them. McClure looks like he will cycle to third. Donnie Garrett fourth. And Dante Ricky, who has led a race-high 15 laps, will be in the 5th position. I want to remind everybody, next week, we've got the Wednesday night, Thursday night doubleheader once again. Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is the Esports Oval League Grind Cup Series, coming off the heels of an exciting race last night at Dover. They're going to head to the Midwest Iowa Speedway next on tap for those drivers. We've had a total of 7 different drivers go to victory lane in the first 8 races. Tom Bourne, the most recent of those. That's on Wednesday night. Thursday night, 1 week from tonight, we will be determining our final 4 for the championship here in Season 64 of the RTG Talladega Challenge Series. Under the lights at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Question we establish here tonight: will there be 4 drivers looking to point their way in, or will one already have locked themselves into that final round awaiting his future 3 opponents? We're going to have less than 10 to go when we get this upcoming final restart here this evening.
And at least fuel is not a factor.
No longer.
No longer.
We're a little ways away from that point of no return mark as well. I think we'll get back green on 57. That'll be about 6 laps away from that lap 62 mark. So still a little bit of wiggle room there where we could end up having a late race restart, like a 1-lap shootout of green-white checkered, something in that scenario. And we've had a couple of those here this season already.
Had it last week.
Yes, we did.
We had a 2-lap shootout the week before that.
So it looks like Richard Martin, Mike Mangialardi, they were the free pass cars. They'll be going around and getting their lap back when the lights go out in the pace car. Bobby Farrell will also be able to go around and get his lap back as the wave around driver. And then the leader, Greg Lovell, will be able to pull up behind the Wiley Co. Tribute pace car with Brian Rawson making up the front row. Update on where your playoff drivers are going to restart here. This restart with less than 10 remaining. Chuck McClure going to restart 3rd. Donnie Garrett in 4th. Dunn LaPrad's going to be 6th. Brian Schilling in 9th. Ulysses Sandoval 10th. Grant Wesley will be back in 14th. Josh Metallic in 19th. And Tim Nofsker is going to be back in the 31st position. Mentioned he had that black flag under green flag conditions on that pit stop. The admins would have cleared that black flag here under caution. He would then have to drop to the tail end of the field. So a lot of cars for the defending champion to have to pass to get up here to the front. You were talking, Michael, about finding that right line. What do you think? 31st to 1st challenge with a little less than 10 laps to go? You think it's possible?
I think it is.
Michael suddenly sounded a lot more Ohioan right there.
Well, he's originally from Ohio.
Oh, that's true. That is
you're
true.
right. Yep. See, exactly.
Sounded a
Go ahead
lot
and
more.
repeat that.
He's been working on his Tony Stewart impression.
See, now that's the real talent.
Yeah.
So go ahead and repeat that for me.
Nofsker starting back in 31st, 10 laps to go. 31st
Ooh.
to 1st challenge? What do you think?
That if he gets in all the right lanes, he's got a good shot. As long as there's no more yellows
If he drives like a Florida driver, right?
on I-4.
That's the only thing I'm dreading about coming down to Florida later this year.
Could be worse. You could be in Birmingham during rush hour on 4 lanes of traffic.
He speaks from experience.
Well, I-4 and the flight down there, but that's a different story.
Yeah, but the good news is when you're in the air, you don't have people changing lanes without a turn signal.
I sure hope not. All the weird things we've been seeing with flights this year, it's...
Well, here we go. 10 laps to determine the first of our round of 8 playoff races. Greg Lovell, much better restart this time on that inside. Got a little bit of an assistance as well from the 17 of Chuck McClure. It's like top 2, maybe 3 going to be clear of that middle line. We'll see if anybody jumps up to the second groove.
McClure has thoughts of it here. Looks like he's going to do it.
Yep, he's going to
Ricky
get
going
there.
with him.
Greg tried to move up to block, didn't have enough time. Godfrey's going to jump up there as well in front of Brian. Brian Rawson, that is. We've actually got Brian versus Brian there for the 5th position. Schilling on the bottom, Rawson on the top.
Boy, Ricky pushing McClure there.
Chuck McClure, as we mentioned, very consistent this season. Was up there in the hunt for regular season champion. Pointed his way into the playoffs. He's still looking for that first trip to victory lane here in season 64. And looking for that automatic lock into the championship 4 here this season. Multi-time champion, looking to hoist that championship trophy once again.
Middle lane getting stifled up here. Ulysses on the outside leading a 3rd lane.
Yeah, we're going to be 3 wide for 4th. Garrett leading the bottom, Ulysses leading the top.
Dunlop Prad stuck in the middle right there. Nobody behind him.
And Josh Metallic not really anywhere near the top spot right now either.
Dante
Out
with
for
a
the
nice
lead.
move there right in front of Godfrey. He's going to go for the top spot.
Sandoval going 3 wide on the outside. He had Causey with him, and now Causey goes behind McClure.
That broke everybody up. Look at all the stack up here all the way back through the middle of this 3 wide. Grant Wesley was nearly out of shape into the back of Joe DeSpirito. Ooh,
Oh, boy.
We are pinching. McClure gets back down to the bottom. Ulysses goes from the top to the middle in front of Kelly Causey once again.
Not sure if that was the smart thing to do for the 96.
Grant Wesley, who got bit with the timing of that yellow, he's in the middle of the pack back there. Same for Josh Metallic. He's on the inside line, but I think he's the 10th, 11th car on the bottom, trying to move his way forward. Again, must-win situation for Josh to advance to the Final Four here tonight. Look who we got up here at the front. We talked about 2 weeks ago, playoff spoiler in Joe DeSpirito. You got Dante Ricky, who runs a part-time schedule. John Godfrey, been a long winless streak for him. And Brian Rawson, who was a multi-time winner a couple of seasons ago to make the playoffs for the first time in his career. It's been at least a 2-season winless streak for him. Then you've got a playoff contender in Donnie Garrett, but we could have ourselves another driver, non-playoff contender, spoil the party for the Championship 8.
Very well could happen. Dante Ricky's had a strong car tonight. I believe he's led the most laps in this thing so far.
17 circuits out in front, and maybe more if he can continue to keep the rest of the field behind him. Keep an eye top left of your screen. We're on lap 61. The next time we come around and hit the stripe, I believe we'll be at the point of no return, where the next flag will end the race.
Believe you might be right.
Still double file back here for 6th. Sandoval and McClure, top 5, all clear at the front. From Ricky back to, well, now back to Donnie Garrett as Sandoval will draw up alongside of Greg Lovell for 5th. And the drivers at the front, if they see this outside line coming, they're going to be tempted to jump up there, try and maybe make a move. Rawson peeking. Left the door open low. Donnie Garrett tried to stick his foot in.
Don't think he was necessarily peeking. I think he was just like, if he went up to the 77, tried to get underneath him. Now here comes the 96.
Sandoval's there. Yep.
Look at the run. That outside line just pushed Sandoval from a battle for 4th to a battle for the race lead.
And look who's also in there. Metallic, they're now going to leave that 96 out.
He was able to get down in front of Dante Ricky, but Kelly Causey now alongside of Sandoval for the top spot, leads the lap, bringing Metallic along with him. Ken Roberts there as well.
First and second right now, Kelly Causey, Ulysses Sandoval, 2 guys that have been awfully close to winning this year, well, this season. Causey here, especially at Talladega, was leading under caution, 2 laps to go, could not make it on fuel. And Sandoval's come up short a couple of times. I think he has two or three second place finishes so far this season.
We usually give this disclaimer, but just a reminder, if we have trouble break out, we're going to stay at the front and watch them race back to the stripe. Even if they take the white flag, we'll look at any necessary replays either during the final caution laps or post-race. As top 5 clear, Causey, Metallic, Roberts, Denny Carroll, Doug Hewlick. Greg Palmer now going to be clear in the 6th position with less than 3 to go. Everybody's got to be aware of the situation for the 39. Causey has to know that Metallic's going to make a move on him at some point. It's just a matter of when and where.
I'm surprised he's being as patient as he is.
You can't wait too long. We've seen where cautions will come out with an incident in the tri-oval and you only have 100 feet to make a move. How long is too long to wait if you're the 39 car? Whoa! Almost had ourselves a wreck back there. Donnie Garrett loose in the middle of the pack. Nice save. Right. 2 laps to go at Talladega.
Kelly Causey looking for a little bit of redemption from a Talladega race a few weeks ago.
They're going to wreck. Ooh, the 88 was real close, squeezing below.
Josh Metallic right there in second. As you mentioned, Seth, not going to be in the race next week, unable to.
Oh,
trying to lock himself into the next round is boy, they're getting really antsy here mid-pack.
And remember when Dante Ricky was leading?
Yeah, he's out. Oh, Brian Schilling saves it.
Glove saving a beauty right there for the 4 car.
Whew.
White flag this time by.
We are going to make it around, it looks like, for the white flag. Metallic going to have 1 lap to work with to try and win his way into the Final 4. If he makes a move, does he have anybody to go with him? Palmer, Wesley trying to make something happen here late on the bottom, just outside of the top 5. Metallic remains patient. Whoa, Denny Carroll gets shuffled out. Here comes
Here he
Josh to
goes.
the bottom. Roberts will go with him. Hewlick got really loose down there on the apron. Metallic is
Timed it
clear.
perfect. He timed it perfect.
He did, and he had the drafting help. Can you
Oh,
believe
there goes
it?
Carroll.
Must-win situation for Josh Metallic. He's going to be championship racing in 2 weeks.
Wow.
First driver this season to win 2 races in a row. Only the second driver to win multiple races this season. Nofsker did it very early on in the year, winning, I believe it was the first and third races of the season. Metallic with 2 wins here in the playoffs.
And he didn't even come up to talk to us before the race started.
He didn't.
Well, he's going to have to come up and talk to us now.
You think it's too late to wish him luck, like I normally do?
Yeah, right?
We'll wish him good luck for next week.
He's not here next week.
That's what I mean.
Oh, okay. Well, Josh Metallic, we now know, is going to make up 25% of the playoff contenders that will fight for the championship starting that final round in 2 weeks' time. Former champion, looking for, I believe it will be his second career championship in this series. We saw him doing some burnouts last week. We get treated to it again 1 week later. We could see the elation in the burnouts last week. Let's see if the ante is upped here in this one with how much pressure, how much was on the line with him here tonight.
I'm with both of you. I'm really surprised that he waited till the last lap to do that. I don't know if that was his plan or not, but we'll have to ask him that during the post-race interview, but pulled it off to perfection.
Certainly looked like he had Ken Roberts with him whenever he made that move. And in typical fashion, Josh going to make his way to his pit stall to celebrate with his team. Josh started this race from the 24th position. Well, I guess he's not going to pull to his pit stall. He normally does. But I guess he's not going to here this evening. We'll be talking with him along with our podium finishers here in just a moment. We're going to go back and take a look at a replay of what happened there coming to the checkers. Denny Carroll in the 41, I believe, was one of the drivers involved.
Yep, him in the 82 car.
This is Sandoval, one of our playoff contenders, was right in the middle of all that, too. Looked like some bumper grab there through the tri-oval.
Sandoval made it through.
And both the cars involved do slide across the start finish line, albeit they were probably going to finish top 10. They slide across the line in 28th and 29th. So here is a look at our final finishing results here this evening. Josh Metallic with the victory. You got to go all the way back to 7th to find the next playoff contender, as Ken Roberts brings it home 2nd, Doug Hewlick in 3rd, Kelly Causey brings it home in 4th with Joe DeSpirito in 5th. Dante Ricky, who led the most laps here tonight, 19 laps out in front this evening in 6th. Donnie Garrett, 777s, 7th place for the 77. He was the second highest finishing of the playoff contenders here tonight. So he should have, I won't say a decent cushion, because a lot of other playoff contenders finished right around him, but he, I think, would be at least above the cut line heading into next week. Greg Palmer brings it home in 8th. Good comeback run for him. He was involved in a couple of wrecks tonight. Sandoval will finish in the top 10, 9th place. Chuck McClure right behind him in 10th. Grant Wesley in 11th. So a chunk of playoff drivers all together there, just outside of the top 10. Brian Rawson will get 12th. Greg Lovell in 13th. Dennis McCarthy and Bob Seminara in 14th and 15th. Brian Schilling, who came in 10 points above the cut line in the second position in points, finishes in 16th. Dunn LaPrade was that cut line driver, 4th in points, finishes 19th. Tim Nofsker finishes back in the 21st position. He was the lowest finishing of the playoff contenders, and he was the points leader after the Elite 8 was reformatted last week. So definitely expect to see some shakeup in regards to the playoff point standings from this week to next week. We had 33 drivers finish on the lead lap, 35 drivers finished this race, 4 drivers behind the wall. And it will be interesting to see what the fallout is going to be from this race in terms of who's above the cut line, who's below the cut line, because with seeing how many drivers are all clumped together, we could end up seeing 3rd through 6th, maybe separated by single-digit points. I mean single-digit points, I mean maybe less than 5 points separating those 4 positions there right around that cut line for the final 4. Let's head into our FRN post-race wind-down and dial up our podium finishers here tonight. Let's see if we can get a hold of the driver of the number 23, Doug Hulick.
User was moved to your
Hey, Doug,
channel.
it's Kyle, Michael, and Seth up here in the FRN booth. Got a copy?
I do have a copy. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing great. Congrats on the podium finish here this evening. Wild race. We saw you right in the vicinity of a couple of those big ones, but able to survive here this evening. Cut your way through the traffic, as it didn't seem like really anybody was committed to anybody in that final 3-4 laps. Get yourself up there on the podium, a shot at winning this thing as well. It looked absolutely hectic from up here in the booth. What was it like down there behind the wheel?
Well, those last couple laps were intense. I was just holding on. I got a new little, I'm visiting my son up in North Dakota, and everything I brought with me, I threw on his table, and it's like I'm on a hardwood floor, and the chair's moving back and forth, and I'm trying to just hold on to everything, and just some tight racing up in there. Ended up bumping the 41 a little bit just to draft him, and he wasn't upset he was upset about that, but it's the last lap. Gotta go.
So one thing that we were observing, as I mentioned, you were in the vicinity of a couple of the wrecks, and I didn't remember seeing you get involved necessarily in any of them, but there was a point where you were leading the outside line with about 10 laps to go, and it just kind of seemed like that line wasn't going anywhere, and we usually see that middle line be really, really strong. What was the factor in that? Did you not have enough cars up there? Was the draft not tight enough? Because it just kind of seemed a little bit different from what we're used to seeing with how strong that middle line usually is.
I thought we were rolling pretty good when Greg Lovell was behind me, and then he jumped down, and that caused a little gap there. And I was just trying to go down as low as I can possibly to just to stay tight with the lower line. And I know I bumped the 4 once, and I came up a little bit, and I got back down, and like 2 laps later, it happened again, and that's when I went back like 15 spots. And how I ever got back up to 3rd, I have no clue.
Yeah, we do have to remember that was a good job of working your way back up there after tank slapping the wall with the right side of the car there off of turn 4. So well done to you on sticking with it and being able to bring it home with a solid podium finish. Doug, will give you the opportunity here for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs after a great showing this evening at Talladega.
Excellent. Thank always Rodney Sullins for throwing together some paint. The Crayola crayons car stayed between the lines, which it's supposed to because it's a crayon. And shout out to my wife back in Pittsburgh. She's probably sleeping. My son hanging out here with North Dakota with me, daughter out in Oklahoma. All the admins here at RTG. My brother Ray doing what he does at Afterburner. All the guys that just race. Great bunch of guys.
Well, we love puns up here in the booth, so you better believe I'm going to be using that Crayola stain in the lines pun at some point here during the remainder of this season. But Doug, congratulations on the great run here tonight. Best of luck here in these final 3 races of season 64.
Thanks, guys. You have a good night. Appreciate you.
Doug Hulick bringing it home in the
User
3rd
was moved out of your
position.
channel.
2nd place, another non-playoff contender, but a driver that was in the playoffs 2 weeks ago. Got eliminated after the elimination race last week at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Or no, correction. No, I'm thinking of Kelly Causey. That's the other driver, 55 actually. Another non-playoff contender that ends up bringing it home in the 2nd position. Let's see if we can dial up Ken Roberts.
User was moved to your
Hey,
channel.
Ken. Kyle, Michael, Seth up here in the FRN booth. Got a copy?
Yeah, sure do. How's it going, guys?
Well, it definitely looked like there was some good communication going on. Looked like you were committed to the 39 whenever and wherever he made the move. With that communication going on, we were debating it amongst ourselves up here in the booth. How long is too long to wait? Because we crossed that point of no return. We have seen so many races either won or lost on the timing of a caution flying past that point of no return, with the race ending under yellow. You guys managed to get to the white, but was there some apprehension of maybe we should make the move here a couple laps sooner?
Actually, I was staying with Josh, and then I did see the lower line was coming, and I'm looking at Josh, looking at the lower line. I'm like, okay, Josh, it's about time to go. And he jumped down, and at that point, I was committed to him. He's in the points and running for a championship, so I just stuck with him there. So just get a good finish.
A great run here this evening. We ended up seeing a lot of drivers have to cut their way up through the field, whether it was getting swept up in incidents. We saw some very interesting timing with some cautions here tonight that put drivers kind of back in terms of strategy. You were able to work your way up to the front and stay at the front, but you talked about that inside line working its way up there. We didn't see a whole lot of commitment in a lot of those lines in the closing stages, which meant that a lot of them ended up getting some pretty unique runs. How difficult was it, with you being that wingman car and kind of doing the scouting for the 39, how tough is that a job for you to be able to not only make sure that you're ready when the 39 is going to make the move, but also preempt anything that's going on in the rearview mirror?
Yeah, I mean it's literally head on a swivel. So you got to keep track of who's with who. The guys that are guys that usually run together, the groups. So just watching that, and when it's time to go, it's time to go. So it worked out good for Josh.
Let's also talk about the fact as well, first time that we get to talk to you up here in the booth this season. Been a bit of a struggle for this 55 car, but a solid runner-up finish here tonight. How good does it feel to finally at least break up there into the top 5, have a decent outing here tonight at Talladega?
Yeah, I don't get to make as many races. I usually working, so I get to make them here and there. So, yeah, I think I've only made like 5 races this year. So, but this is a great group of guys to race with. I mean, everything they do over here at RTG with Josh and Jeremy and Rodney and guys, all the admins over here, they do a great job. Corralling. There's 40 cars in here almost every night. So it's a fun place to race, very competitive. So I really enjoy it.
Well, Ken, congratulations on the great run here tonight. 2nd place at Talladega Super Speedway. We'll give you the opportunity now for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you guys for putting these broadcasts on. It's going to be a definitely must-watch tonight. So thank you guys for that. Josh and Jeremy and Rodney, all the admins here, they do a great job running this this series. And Dave and Sean, the guys that run RTG, they put on a pretty good series over here. So, and just like to thank my teammates, guys I run with, and just enjoy the racing. So good times.
Ken Roberts puts that number 55 2nd place here tonight in a thriller at Talladega Super Speedway. Congratulations on the great run. Hopefully we see you run the remainder of this season out and maybe get to talk to you again before the conclusion of season 64.
Yep, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Ken Roberts with the runner-up finish. 2 non-playoff drivers in the podium. 1 playoff driver finishes P1. He's moving on to the Final 4. Let's see if we can dial up back-to-back winner, Josh Metallic.
User was moved to your
Hey, Josh,
channel.
Kyle, Michael, Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Gotcha.
Well, man, usually we end up having a little pre-race meeting. We didn't get it this week, so I'm going to attribute that to the fact you were laser-focused here tonight. You told us last week you're not going to be here next week. It was a must-win situation for this Gray Ghost throwback here tonight, and you were able to pull off that miraculous story. I asked this question to Ken. I'm going to ask it to you as well. You made the move at the right time. However, we have seen so many times where the caution will fly at inopportune times when a driver's just not been able to make that move soon enough. What kind of doubts were going through your mind of, is now the time? Is now the time? Do I want to wait until that final lap?
Yeah, pre-race we were trying to figure out if there was going to be lotto or not. There's a couple things going on, and before I knew it, I'm like, well, I don't want to go bother them because we're getting ready to get going. So just didn't get a chance to get up there, which I felt bad. I'm like, I'm not going to talk to him now for the next 2 weeks. But yeah, near the end, I mean, I don't know. I thought I saw with 2 or 3 to go, someone get down the apron. I heard some chatter. I'm like, oh, here they go. I thought there was a wreck, and I guess they saved it. I don't know what happened, but I was sandwiched between Kelly and Ken, who were teammates. So I was like, man, this is not an ideal situation because chances are they're going to work with each other. And I waited to the last lap. I didn't see any. I was waiting for maybe 3 wide to pop out and then just dive it low and catch them off guard. 3 wide never showed up. And last lap, turn 3, you had to make a move. You had to try. And thankfully, Ken Roberts went. And thankfully, Kelly didn't pull, a wild block, which he would have been entitled to. It's going for the win. There's more than just playoff drivers. Everyone's here to race, to compete. We're no different than any other guy that's racing for a win. So we treat everyone fairly. Everyone's trying to get the best finish they can. But I think they knew my situation and maybe felt bad I was going to be gone. I don't know what it was, but I made a desperation move, and I got the help from Ken. Kelly raced me clean, and the rest is history.
Well, we know how dangerous you can be with the championship on the line. We've seen you win the championship before. We've seen you, when you're not in the title picture, win the season finale before. So be interesting to see what happens in a couple weeks' time when we eventually begin this final round of the playoffs. I mentioned about the fact of the timing of the yellow, and if we go back to that final restart, you were not necessarily in the most ideal situation. You've been running in the top 10 all night long. We saw a group of cars come down pit road. You looked like you were one that was going to stay out a little bit longer. Caution comes out. All those drivers that came to pit road, they cycle up to the front. You find yourself 19th on that restart with 10 laps to go. How do you keep yourself mentally in the game here, still in that must-win mentality when you end up losing track position on an untimely caution?
Yeah, me and Brian Schilling were working together. I was mid-pack. I don't even remember how I got there. Honestly, I may have been shuffled out. And eventually worked my way to the middle. And then everyone up front went low, getting ready for pit stops. And they weren't pitting. So I'm like getting down to the nitty gritty with fuel, and with I pitted when I actually had to. I was going to pit a lap or 2 earlier, but I couldn't get down there safely. So yeah, this happened like 2 weeks ago to me or something. I was running top 5, and the yellow came out. Half the field pitted. I go in and pit, and I come out, and I'm like 18th. And then someone gets a bad restart, and 2 laps later, I'm 28th. I'm like, how do they go from 5th to 28th? So I thought it was going to happen again tonight. I was running top 10 and then restarted 19th. And I thought, I'm going to have to be really aggressive to have a shot. And the lines moved the right way. I made all the right decisions, which never happens. And I got up there close enough to have a shot.
So you're locked into the Final Four. You got a nice vacation coming up next week. How much do you think during that vacation you're going to be thinking about the next 2 weeks here and fighting for that championship? Because now you've got a victory at Burnt Screwdriver's race what you got last week. You got a win at Talladega here this week. The 2 tracks you're going to have to tackle to get that title here in Season 64.
Oh, I'll be watching. I'll be looking forward to watching this broadcast. Next week, I'll try to watch it live. I don't know where I'll be next Thursday at this time. But I'll definitely be watching. And, yeah, I'll be, it was going to be a relief one way or the other. Either I was going to be out of the playoffs tonight and I don't have to worry about it and let Tim and Rodney deal with all the incident reports and all the drama and all the stuff, or win somehow, which I still can't believe that happened. And no, I don't have to worry about anything next week at all and just enjoy vacation. So either way, it's going to be a relaxing vacation. I didn't have to worry about it, but I would have watched either way if I was in or out, because I still enjoy it and always like watching the broadcast.
Well, Josh, congratulations on back-to-back victories. You locked yourself into the round of 8 last week. You advance into the Final Four here tonight. We'll give you the opportunity. Oh, do you have a question, Michael?
Yeah, well, it's not so much a question. Well, Josh, like you said, like you said earlier, you didn't come up to give us our usual pre-race little pep chat. So I chalk that up to it being a good thing that you won today. So we're gonna go ahead and say this now, so you don't have to do it next week. Good luck next week, man.
I thought I'd be up here later tonight anyway. That's why I didn't show up early. I'll just be honest about it. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Not a problem. Well, Josh, congratulations on the win here tonight. We'll give it the opportunity now for some victory lane. Thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Yeah, thanks to you guys as always. These broadcasts are always fun to go back and watch. I feel better now about knocking Rodney out of the playoffs. I felt really bad that he missed it by a point, and I was in, and I was like, if I don't have a good showing this week, I'm going to feel real bad because I knocked him out and threw away his chance, and he had a bad night. I felt bad for him. So thanks to him and Tim for all they do, all they're going to do these next 2 weeks, taking care of everything here on Thursdays. To Bones and to Prime, as always. They're still doing work every day. Hopefully they'll get a chance to race Thursdays again. It'd be good to see them out here, but they got a lot to do. The admins that help me every night of the week. Again, Kelly and Ken for the help in the racing clean up front. And all the drivers, we're still getting 39 last 2 weeks. Usually this time of year, this part of the season, we're lucky to crack 30. So all's going well, and appreciate everyone that races and helps out one way or another.
Well, Josh, congratulations on the victory here tonight. Enjoy your vacation next week, and we'll look forward to seeing you fight for that championship in a couple weeks' time when we come back here to the high banks of Talladega.
Thanks again, guys. Appreciate it.
Josh Metallic, your winner here tonight.
User was
Only
moved
the
out of your
second
channel.
driver to win multiple races this season and the first driver to do it back-to-back. Well, gentlemen, we now know at least one of the drivers that will be battling for the title in 2 weeks' time. We still got to determine who the other 3 drivers will be. We know at least 2 drivers are going to have to point their way in. We could potentially see one of our other 7 playoff remaining contenders advance their way in through a victory next week. However, we could end up just having 3 drivers point their way in as well. And the point standings are indeed updated. Take a listen to this. So Metallic's in. Grant Wesley sits second, 5 points above the cut line. Brian Schilling and Donnie Garrett, they're tied right now for third, 3 points ahead of the cut line. Below the cut line, you've got Chuck McClure and Tim Nofsker, who are in a tie technically for fourth. So, as I predicted, you've got second through fifth, separated by only 8 points. All the way down to the remainder of the drivers, Sandoval and Dunlap-Pratt, there's only 14 points between second through 8th. That easily can be made up or lost with the full fields that we have had here this season next week at BSR.
Oh, wow.
It's definitely
It's going to be something.
Yeah, it's gonna put definitely emphasis on track position, and that's for sure.
Track
With it
position, luck, execution.
With it
Bonus
being
points.
that close,
All the
bonus
stuff we
points,
talked about, all of
everything.
it.
Absolutely.
Man, it is going to be a nail-biter next week to find out who the remaining 75% of our Final Four are going to be. Hope you guys will be joining us for that one. Congratulations to Ulysses Sandoval. He moves on in the bracket challenge to face off against Mike Mangialardi next week. Winner of that will go on to face off against Brian Schilling for the overall challenge championship. And of course, as well, a lot of drivers, a lot of big-name drivers still looking for that first checkered flag. They've got 3 more shots starting next week at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Michael, Kyle, tremendous race here tonight. We had that improbable Cinderella story with Josh Metallic that came to fruition here this evening. We've had those kind of storylines all season long, seen some drivers get their first victories of the season. Can't wait to see what we have in store next week with not only the storylines of those not in the playoffs, but also that entire playoff picture. Appreciate you both joining me in the booth here tonight.
Yes.
Very fun race to call. Looking forward to the last 3.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into our coverage here tonight. We'll see you guys next week, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for our final elimination race of the season. Final four will be locked at the conclusion of next week's race. Also, be sure to join us on Wednesday night, as we'll be at Iowa for the Esports Oval League's Grind Cup Series. That will also be at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Got some really good racing coming up here in the next 7 days. But for Michael Norman, I'm Kyle Matthews. I'm Seth Cole. We'll see you guys next week as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
And I will walk 500 miles.
And I will walk 500 more.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.